Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com. Welcome to PhoneDog Live, our show here on Ustream. We also broadcast this to our Facebook page every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, like it is right now. I'm glad everyone could be here. I'm a couple of minutes late because, again, Ustream decided to be just awesome and not work for me. But that's okay because we're live now, and we have a great show planned. As you guys saw in the intro, some of the things we're going to be talking about this week are iPad 3 leaks. We have some leaked images of BlackBerry 10. We also have a lot of Motorola news kind of scattered throughout the whole spectrum of what it includes, but a lot of Motorola news, and then, as usual, leaked devices. We got the HTC Endeavor, the Ville, or whatever you want to pronounce it, LG X3, and the LG Optimus Vu, and the LG CX2. Just a lot of great topics. I'm glad everyone could be here. If you're on Ustream, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching as well. You can, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can check out the timeline below the video because I'm going to have the timeline there. I meant to say the description below the video, but yeah, the timeline works too because that's where it is. So you don't have to watch the whole show. You can kind of just skip around to whatever topics you want to hear about. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And if you're on Ustream, you have to watch the whole thing. That's one of the conditions of being live, that you got to be there for all of it. But we're going to get started with a couple of leaks because these are kind of cool devices. The LG CX2 and the LG X3 and the LG Optimus Vu. I mentioned all of these in the introduction. I was talking about all of these leaks. So we'll start with the X2. And first of all, just a quick rundown of all these specs, because I know, at least for me, when we hear all these names, it can kind of get confusing, like they all just kind of run together. Let me get my glass of water ready. I drink water because my voice gets croaky. Anyway, so the CX2, 4.3 inch. Now the new leaks. This is part of the news. We originally heard that it was a 4.3 inch WVGA Nova display, but we're now hearing that it could have a high res IPS display. So kind of a little better there in the spec department. That's part of the new leaks. But as far as we know, it's still a 4.3 inch display, 1.2 gigahertz dual core TI OMAP processor, an 8 gigs of internal memory. Will have NFC support. It'll be 9.8 millimeters thick, which is pretty thin. There are phones that are thinner than that, obviously, but I believe this will be a 3D phone. So, having that new technology, well, it's not really new now, but having that technology, I guess, kind of adds some bulk. So again, it will have a 3D camera, 5 megapixel dual cameras for the 3D effect. And then it will ship with Android 2.3, which is a little disappointing since, by the time this comes out, Ice Cream Sandwich will have been out for a while. But, as far as we know, Android 2.3. So we got a leaked picture of this phone, and it's kind of interesting. I'm going to show it to you guys right now so you can see it. The first thing that I thought of whenever I saw this was that the hardware looks basically exactly like the white iPhone 4, and you may have different opinions, but seriously, like, if you look at this thing, I mean, the edges, just basically everything about it looks like the white iPhone 4. So, take that as you will. But there it is. We got a leaked render of it. And that UI looks kind of interesting. LG's UI, at least in the past, has not been my favorite. It kind of copies off of some aspects of TouchWiz in sort of like the look and feel of it, but like the old TouchWiz that was really colorful and cartoonish, but just overall, it's not quite as refined as UIs by HTC and Samsung with TouchWiz and Sense, and even Motorola, their UI. I mean, even though I don't like it, it is very refined. It's just not doesn't really suit me, but very refined. Whereas LG's UI still kind of rough around the edges, kind of cartoony. But that one, it looked a little bit different. It looked kind of more refined, so maybe that's a good thing. But that is looking to be a good phone. We also got some more details on the LG X3. I don't think we have a picture of this one. I think it was just the CX2. Yeah, just the CX2. So, but the X3, that's shaping up to be a better phone than the CX2. So we got some updated specs. So here they are, 1.4 gigahertz NVIDIA Tegra 3 quad-core processor. So boom, there it is, quad-core processors in phones. We're finally starting to see it. It will ship with ice cream sandwich. So you can kind of see that like the CX2 and the X3, definitely, you know, different classes. Both of them, you know, great high-end phones, but I think the X3 is definitely the higher-end phone. It will ship with ice cream sandwich. I'm guessing LG's custom UI, although we're not entirely sure. It will have a 4.7-inch 1280 by 720 display, so True HD display. 8 megapixel camera. It will have a front-facing camera, 16 gigabytes of internal memory. It'll have a 2,000 milliamp hour battery, which is nice. That's, you know, battery life is one of those things. If you're a fan of Android, I mean, if you just kind of had to live with bad battery performance, especially with the rise of 4G, you know, LTE, HSPA+, it just drains the battery so much more quickly than, you know, just having a 3G device. And so, you know, now we're starting to see phones like the Droid Razr Max that had a larger battery, and now, whoa, my voice just cracked, that was awesome. And now the LG X3 will have a 2,000 milliamp hour battery. You know, not much from, you know, what we have like today of, you know, 1,600, but still kind of, you know, a little bit bigger than the average battery. So that's the LG X3, and it will supposedly be an HSPA Plus device. So, you know, on all these phones, and all of them that I'm about to talk about, the CX2, the X3, the Optimus Vu coming up next, we don't know which carrier they're going to. As far as we know, these are just phones that, you know, manufacturers are pushing out, and we don't know what carrier they're going to go to. So if you're wondering that, I don't know, sorry, but we'll probably find out sooner rather than later. So two pretty awesome phones there. Now the Optimus Vu is the one that's the really interesting, because this one is kind of a lot like the Galaxy Note. In fact, the leaked picture that we have is actually the phone next to the Galaxy Note. You can see the Galaxy Note there, and then we have the Optimus Vu. Now this is kind of an interesting phone because as you can see, the aspect ratio is a little different. If you look at it, it's on the left there. It's kind of like very wide, chunky. It has a 4:3 aspect ratio, so kind of basically like a square almost. So it's large, has a large display, but then it's a square display. So you saw the bezel was kind of thinner. Let me get you guys the specs on this one too. Optimus Vu has a 5-inch display, so basically like the Galaxy Note, just you know, slightly smaller. 5-inch display, 1024 by 768, 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor, and a gig of RAM, and it'll ship with Android 2.3. But you know, the interesting thing is that, you know, the Galaxy Note was very unique. It was huge. It was, you know, almost like a miniature tablet, but at the same time, it was a phone. I'm like, you make calls on it. It's not a tablet. It's a phone. And so everyone was like, I mean, is that really going to catch on? We had the Dell Streak, you know, they tried to do that with a 5-inch display, and it was, I mean, people it was kind of had a polarizing effect. You know, you either love it or you hate it. With the Galaxy Note, kind of the same thing. But apparently enough people like it that other manufacturers are like, hey, we can do that. I mean, if people like that, then, you know, what the heck? We'll make one of those too. And I think the interesting thing about having a 4:3 aspect ratio, and this is something that I talked about whenever I tested the Pantech Pocket. Like, by all accounts and purposes, not the best device, but the interesting thing about it was that it had a 4:3 aspect ratio. The display had a 4:3 aspect ratio. Well, the rest of the phone too, obviously. But it had a 4-inch display, which is, you know, kind of, sort of, you know, not extremely large, but it's right there in the middle. But that interesting aspect ratio made it seem bigger than it really was. And that was one thing that I was really surprised about, because whenever they sent me the phone with the PR notes and I had heard all of what AT&T and Pantech were saying about it, they said, it's great for multimedia, for reading books, because of that aspect ratio. It's great for watching videos and playing games. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, whatever. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. It's this selling gimmick. But in all actuality, it really was great for watching videos because it made it seem larger than it really was. You felt like you had more screen real estate than you really did. And so I can imagine on a display that is actually large, that is a 5-inch display, with that aspect ratio, I can only imagine, what it's going to do for a display like that. So that's actually really exciting. That might be like the ultimate crossover device. I mean, I think the Galaxy Note really kind of blurs the lines between, what's a phone, what's a tablet, how big can a phone be? Is it a phone? Is it a tablet? Is a phone lit? Whatever. We've asked that question so many times. The Galaxy Note really blurred that line, but I think the Optimus Vu, with that aspect ratio, can actually take that form factor and make it useful. Like, okay, it's not just a big display that's, great for whatever when you're web browsing. Like, this phone is actually really good for watching videos, for playing games. That this is not just a big display for the sake of having a larger screen. This is a big display to make your experience better. And I think, from personal experience of using the Pantech Pocket with that aspect ratio, I think that's what it's going to do for the Optimus Vu. Hey, that rhymed. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. See, this is stuff that you get on Phone Dog Live. You don't get that on other podcasts. That's me only. Those awesome rhymes, Okay, so let's move on to the HTC Endeavor. We had so many leaks about the Endeavor and the Ville. I'm going to call it the Ville. No, the Ville, because that sounds like lamb. VA. Maybe the Ville. VA. I'm pretty sure it's VA, because in Spanish, the double L is like a Y. So maybe it's VA. I don't know. The Endeavor and the VA, we had tons of leaks on these two phones, and now they've been renamed. So they will supposedly, when they're released, they will not be known as the Endeavor and the VA. They will be known as the 1X and the 1S. The Endeavor will be the 1X, and the VA will be the 1S. So, which is kind of interesting. I heard a lot of people saying like, wow, that's really dumb. But see, the thing is, the X, it'll be like a superscription. So it'll be like up in the top corner, like a, when you have like, 10 to the X power in math, it'll be like that. So kind of interesting. I'm not entirely sure why HTC decided to do that, unless they just ran out of phone names. I don't know. So they were like, yeah, screw it. Let's just call it the 1. What do we call the other phone? 2? I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what they'll do. And then also more specs. So the Endeavor, it just is going to be freaking awesome. Android 4.0 with Sense 4.0. And we got to look at what Sense 4.0 is going to look like. We talked about that last week. There was a leaked video. It's since been set to private. I don't know if someone made a copy of it and it's back on YouTube, but the original video is private now. But we got to look at Sense 4.0, and it was very different from what Sense is now. I think like the theory is the same in terms of visually customizing every visual aspect of Android. It's still the same theory, but it just looks different. So, but Android 4.0, 4.7-inch Super LCD display. It'll have a 1.5 gigahertz quad-core Tegra 3 processor. So we're starting to see these quad-core processors pop up in phones, which is pretty awesome. An 8-megapixel camera. Now here's the interesting thing, 32 gigabytes of internal memory, and it will not have a micro SD card slot. Not entirely sure why. We haven't heard any like really solid reasons for that, but for whatever reason, it's not going to have a micro SD card slot. I believe it's even going to have a micro SIM card slot, if I'm correct. I don't have that in my notes, so I really shouldn't say that unless I'm sure. But regardless, no micro SD card slots, but it will have 32 gigs of internal memory, so that's, not too bad. and then a gig of RAM. So pretty awesome phone. We're supposed to see it at MWC, which is coming up pretty soon. And it'll be an HSPA Plus device, 21.1 megabits per second HSPA Plus. So not quite LTE. So we might see that on, AT&T or T-Mobile. Honestly, if I had to make a guess about this, one, it's HSPA Plus, so we know it's going to be either AT&T or T-Mobile. T-Mobile, it seems like they're high-end, just, super flagship phones. It seems like they're really putting those phones on the 42 megabits per second HSPA Plus network. So I would be surprised if a phone like this, of this caliber, was released on T-Mobile and kept to 21 megabits per second. You'd think they would bump it up to the 42. So because of that, my guess is that this phone is coming to AT&T. That's just a guess. I've been wrong in the past. Recently, I was wrong about the Galaxy Note Super Bowl commercial, and I was wrong about one other big thing, the iPhone coming to T-Mobile. So, don't quote me on any of this, but that's just my guess based on facts. And again, that's the Endeavor, which will be known as the 1X. The HTC VA, which will be known as the 1S, it's also pretty awesome as well. 4.3-inch QHD Super AMOLED display. Not quite as powerful, 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor. But it is supposedly going to have a Snapdragon S4 processor, which as far as I know is the most recent generation. So, not quad-core, it's dual-core, but still the newest processor that you can get from Qualcomm in their Snapdragon line. 8-megapixel camera, 1080p HD video capture. It'll supposedly have Beats technology, Android 4.0 with Sense 4.0. I believe we have some pictures of these. Let me see my pictures. Here is the Endeavor, and it's so unique looking. HTC phones, it's like none of them look the same. They're all so different. No, actually, I'm just being sarcastic. This looks like basically every other HTC phone we've ever seen. And then we don't have a picture of the VA. I think we had one last week, and then of course, like the video that I talked about. But that's the Endeavor. The VA will probably look exactly the same. So, but anyway, those are those two phones. We also heard about another phone, the 1V. So we have the 1X, the 1S, and then the 1V. The 1V is going to be really a mid-range phone. 3.7-inch display, 1 gigahertz processor, single core, 5-megapixel camera, a gig of RAM. But the interesting thing about this is that it's supposedly going to ship with Android 4.0 and Sense 4.0, and at least recently, in the phones that we have coming out now that are mid-range phones, they're shipping with Android 2.3. So it's kind of interesting to see this is a mid-range phone, but it's actually going to ship with the latest version, Android 4.0. Now, that being said, when is this going to be released? By the time it's released, maybe 4.0 will be the new Android 2.3. Who knows? But kind of interesting there. So some phones to look forward to. But those are the leaks. I want to move on to some big news. We got, obviously, all of this is leaks. I want to talk about first, and then we'll move on to the bigger topic. Motorola's first Intel-powered smartphone reportedly shown in leaked render. Android 4.0 in tow. I read that directly from the headline because it was well written. It was a good headline. There's no reason to change it. So, but the cool thing about this is that, it's the first, Motorola or Android phone with an Intel powered with an Intel processor, which is a big deal. But also the picture gives us a look at what Motorola's UI will look like on Ice Cream Sandwich. So I'm going to keep this picture up for a little while so that you guys can get a good look at it. But as you can see, widgets are a little bit different. I mean, I don't know if that clock widget is going to be, if that's Motorola's new clock widget. It's very, very different from what they have now. But you can see also the virtual buttons there at the bottom kind of has like a new gradient or background, so that's been changed a little bit. And then the icons there at the bottom, the shortcuts, with the app drawer shortcut in the middle there, they've also been customized a little bit. So you can see the customizations, but to me the biggest thing is how different this is from Motorola's current version of their UI. Really, I don't see any resemblance, from that picture and that UI to Motorola's UI now. And for me, that's a great thing because, I hate Motorola's UI currently. Oh wait, okay. So is there another person in Ustream that's Phone Dog? That's weird. That must be Taylor or something. Sorry, I just noticed that. It kind of like caught me off guard. Anyway, so I was just checking the chat stream. So to me, that's kind of the biggest thing is that, getting a new look at what Motorola's UI will look like. It is Taylor. Okay, cool, Taylor. Glad you could be here. Glad you're signed in as Phone Dog too, because I didn't get a chance to set any moderators. So I'm glad you'll be able to take care of that. So, there's a picture. You can take a look at it. Like I said, very different from Motorola's UI right now. I think that's a good thing. But, some people like Motorola's UI. So maybe if you like Motorola's UI, then you're like, man, they changed it. I liked the old one. So who knows? But the thing I really wanted to talk about with Motorola is their update schedule. And if you saw, we reported on this. I'm sure you've probably seen it. They released news on when a lot of their phones will get updates. The Atrix 2 Bionic, Droid 3, Droid 4, X2, the Electrify, the Milestone 3, a bunch of their phones. They released news on when it will get Android 4.0, so you can check out that article. But the problem is that it's great that they're telling us about this because, keeping us in the open, it's awesome. But the bad thing is when these updates are coming, there's some that will be coming in Q2 of this year, which is in the next couple of months. Q3, Q1 generally runs like the first 3 months, so, January to March. So Q2, is coming up in the next couple of months, but the majority of these phones are not going to get Android 4.0 until Q3, which is starting to run into summer, fall. We're talking like October, September. This is like the Droid Bionic, the Motorola Atrix 2, the Droid X2, let me see, other phones, blah, 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 the Photon, that's coming in Q3, the Droid Razr and the Razr Max, that's in the evaluation and planning phase, so, we don't even know what that's going to happen, but the majority of these phones, also, the tablets too, the Zoom, and the Zyboard, you're gonna have to wait until Q3 2012. So that's a long time to wait. And this was something that's been a problem in the past, dealing with getting updates out. Samsung has, probably the worst reputation. But it's always been a problem, no matter if you got a Samsung device, a Motorola device. HTC has generally been good about it, but there's still some phones that, are kind of behind. Getting updates is a problem with Android, and it's not just about the updates. It's that not getting an update then leads to fragmentation, and we all know fragmentation. However you feel about it, you guys know how I feel about it, so I'm not even going to talk about it. But that's the problem, and not even talking about how this is going to contribute to fragmentation. This isn't even about fragmentation. This is about, I just spent $200 on a phone. I'm locked into it for 2 years, but I'm not going to get the update that came out pretty much, the month I bought this phone, or maybe a month before I bought this phone. I'm not going to get it for a year after the phone is out. Never mind about fragmentation, just as a customer, that would be extremely frustrating. And seriously, how long does it take to get the update to make it work for your hardware and then push it out to consumers? And Taylor actually wrote an article about this, basically, venting his frustrations. And I completely agree. He brought on an interesting point that, a lot of it, Motorola says, well, we have to, we get the update, but we have to make it work with our hardware. Which is like, okay, yeah, we get that. You got a lot of phones, you got to make them work. But the interesting thing is that Ice Cream Sandwich, the reference processor that Google used was a TI-OMAP processor. The Galaxy Nexus, it has a TI-OMAP processor. Well, Motorola, most of their phones, if not all of them, use a TI OMAP processor. So, while that's not everything, while there are other, hardware parts to consider, the biggest determining factor is really the processor. So when you already have a processor that's compatible with the version of Android that you're working with, what else are you working with? I mean, what else do you have to do? I mean, yeah, there's other things, but considering that's really the biggest, roadblock, so to speak, it's really just ridiculous. As Taylor said, it's absurd. We don't have any word on why it's going to take this long. But again, if you think about, like, okay, so maybe you are willing to wait until Q3, till, September, October, which is a long ways away, if you don't know that. That's a long ways away. But say you are willing to wait, how many phones is Motorola going to release before then? And yeah, everyone's talking about how we're going to release fewer phones. We need to have just, a couple of really good phones instead of, a ton of phones that, like, are okay, and then every single one is exactly the same. Yeah, Motorola says that, but I mean, they're going to release a lot of phones. I mean, even if they cut it in half, even if it's like one phone a month, that's still like 5 phones or something, depending on if you're going to count like mid-range phones that they might release. There's going to be a lot of phones since then. Not even, that's just Motorola. I mean, how many phones is HTC going to release that you're going to want? Or how many phones is Samsung going to release that you're going to want? And, here you are waiting for this update, and there's going to be new phones. There's going to be new phones released with ice cream sandwich, and you're going to be thinking, should I wait? Should I just upgrade? Should I just get that phone? Are we actually going to get it in Q3? I mean, I don't have to remind you guys how many times we heard, it's coming next week. Okay, it's coming next month. It's definitely coming next week. And then in the end, we had to wait like 6 months from the original leaked date. So, is it even coming in Q3? Just extremely frustrating. I can imagine for Motorola users, these are their high-end phones. This is the Droid Razr Max, the Zyborg X2, 8.2, 10.1. These are their high-end phones that will be waiting on Ice Cream Sandwich. And in the meantime, they're probably going to release new phones with Ice Cream Sandwich. And it's just frustrating, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But, the thing is, and again, Taylor brought this out, we talk about this. We complain about it. I talk about updates. You got to get them out. I mean, you just have to. It's good for business. It's good for world peace. It's good for everything. Everybody's happier when they get their Android update. But, we talk about it. But the problem is that it's not going to change. We have no say over what happens. And I know, you say, well, people complained about it, and Samsung, they said, what, yeah, we got to be better about this, and Motorola, like, yeah, we got to be better about this. They formed the Android Update Alliance, so it seems like, yeah, our complaints were having an effect, but not really, because if you look at this, they're still not working to get it out in a timely manner. Q3 is not a timely manner. I don't care what anyone says. So yeah, it seems like we were having an effect, but not really. And so that's the frustrating part, is that, we talk about it, but nothing's going to change. Android 5.0 Jelly Bean is rumored to be launching in Q2, so take that into consideration. So, okay, you're waiting until Q3 to get your Android update. There's going to be phones released in the meantime that ship with Android 4.0, and in Q2, which is in like the next 3 or 4 months, there's going to be a new Android update. So you're going to be 2 versions behind before you even, got around to throwing the box away. I mean, that's frustrating for the consumer. And that's a report out of DigiTimes. We don't have any pictures or anything, but we are told that it will be optimized for tablets. Excuse me. And it will integrate Chrome system functions for dual operating system designs. Now, does that mean that we could have like a tablet that, can dual boot between Android and Windows 8, or, like without having to shut off, obviously? Does it mean that we could do that? It would be awesome, but I mean, I really can't see that happening, but that's what we heard, at least from DigiTimes. And then they also said that Google would use Jelly Bean to try and get back into the notebook and netbook market. So Q2, not that far away, and we could see a new update. My guess is that, well, obviously it's going to add a lot of new features. We're going from 4.0 to 5.0, so that's a big jump. So we should see there should be a huge update. I'm kind of wondering if visually, if it'll look the same. I kind of think it might look the same. I don't know if there's going to be a huge visual update, but we'll have to see. Moving on to BlackBerry 10 leaked images. This is actually pretty exciting. It's exciting for me, at least, because, well, one, we read about BlackBerry and how RIM is struggling and it's doom and gloom. And so to see them actually working on, trying to dig themselves out of the hole is kind of fun. But also for me, since I've been doing this BlackBerry challenge, I've been using the BlackBerry Torch, I can definitely see the use of some updates. And so we have some pictures. I'm just going to show them to you. Excuse me, sorry. So here's a picture of the app drawer. As you can see, kind of, similar to pretty much every operating system on the market right now, except for Windows Phone. It's very different from that. But, it's a lot like Android, a lot like iOS. And then we have a picture of when somebody calls you. So you can see this is very nice, very Metro UI-ish, very pretty and modern, different from what BlackBerry is right now. Here's a picture of the inbox. Nothing really exciting, but you can see kind of an updated design here. From what I've noticed, it's a lot lighter, a lot more fun, a lot more colors, a lot more rounded. It's not quite as, hardcore business. It's a little more fun. And then lastly, the big one, widgets. So here we go. This is the home screen. And I guess somewhere you can pull up the app drawer or, something. I'm not sure how that works. But here's the home screen. And as you can see, there's widgets. Now, it's kind of interesting. I can't remember who described it this way. It might have been Alex who wrote the news article. But it's kind of like a mix between Android widgets and Windows Phone tiles because, very square, very organized, very in line, but they're still widgets. And so kind of like finding a balance between having the feature that everyone wants, but not doing it like everyone else. But from and you can take a look at those pictures if I didn't show them for long enough. But definitely a big improvement. I think it looks awesome. It's gonna be great. Never mind if everybody has widgets now and they totally ripped off of Android. Like, I don't even care. And I don't think BlackBerry users care. I really don't. I think they just want something that's better, that works, where they can still get, the famous BlackBerry keyboard but have a great operating system experience. But the colors look great. The shapes look great. If you didn't notice in the app, the picture with the apps, I'll go back to it. You can see you have folders here, and so you can see the icons, the apps that are actually in that folder. So there's the folder there called folder, but also pictures. We're assuming that stack of photos will actually be pictures, the pictures that are in your gallery. But overall, the icons have a different look. Again, just a little more light, a little more fun, and I think that's going to be great for BlackBerry. And so that's really exciting, BlackBerry 10. And if you guys saw, we got just a quick update. T-Mobile sent out an invitation, supposedly talking about what's next with BlackBerry and T-Mobile to this event on March 15th. We thought it was going to be a big thing because what's next? I mean, that's generally big stuff. But we got an update that they're not going to release any new devices, that it's just going to be, it's apparently not really for that. So if you're wondering, like, okay, we're going to see new phones, no, we're not. So just an update on that. Let's move on to, but I'm excited. I'm really excited about those because, look at the pictures. They look great. I mean, even the most hardcore BlackBerry hater can't deny that. Those widgets, those icons, the overall feel of it, it just seems great and fun and light and but very organized too. And that's big for BlackBerry. Organization, still keeping it functional, but adding some form, adding some design to it. Let's move on to iPad 3. tons of leaks about this, more so than other weeks. I know, like, you're thinking, like, there's always tons of leaks, but as we get closer to the date, we're going to see a lot more leaks. And so, speaking of the date, we have another rumored release date, March 7th, which is kind of in line with everything that we've been hearing. We've heard February, March, basically that's what we've heard all along. And so we've kind of gone back and forth. Like, I remember we heard a February 24th release date or launch date. And then we heard, March 9th, March 6th. Now we're hearing March 7th. So, somewhere in there, March 7th. And this is coming from iMore, which used to be the iPhone and iPad blog. I don't remember what the entire acronym stood for, but they renamed it to iMore. So if you're wondering, like, what the heck is iMore? It's a site that you've probably heard of. They just changed their name. Anyway, so yeah, supposedly coming March 7th, which is a Wednesday. We also have word that the iPad 3 could be a 4G LTE device for Verizon and AT&T. So this is something that we've heard a lot. Again, a lot of these rumors are not new. Coming in March 7th, that's really in line with everything we've heard. We've heard before it could be a 4G device, whether it's, HSPA Plus or LTE. We've heard that a lot, but now it's kind of just, we're hearing it more often, and it's starting to come together. So LTE for Verizon and AT&T. Now, you're like, well, what about Sprint? We're not entirely sure about Sprint yet, but at least Verizon and AT&T versions should be LTE. At least that's what we're hearing from the Wall Street Journal. And then if you don't have a 4G connection, if you're not in an LTE area, it'll drop back down to, I guess, either HSPA Plus or 3G. We're also just tons of news. I don't even have any commentary on this. This is just news. Apple is supposedly testing an 8-inch version of the iPad. Surprise, surprise. We've heard these are all the sizes that we've heard. 6-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch, 9.7-inch. We've heard pretty much every size display for the iPad 3. So now we're hearing that they're testing an 8-inch model. They very well could be testing it. Now, will they actually decide to go with that? Who knows? Personally, I would be surprised if they did. You think about the iPhone, it's same screen size ever since the original. They haven't changed it. They haven't released, two-sized models. So you think about the iPad kind of being an extension of that. I can't really see them releasing two models. But then again, if you go back to, Apple really trying to bring together their entire ecosystem, you have Mac OS, and then you have iOS, and iOS is, iPhone, iPad, iPod, and then, Mac OS is obviously for the Macs. But, we've known for a while, excuse me, sorry, I have to get a drink. We've known for a while that Apple really wants to bring those together and have, one OS on all of their devices, all of their products. And so if you think about, okay, well, they're trying to do that. I'm sorry, it's my throat. I apologize. Anyway, if you think about, well, they're trying to do that, then, okay, I could kind of see them releasing, an iPad with more than one display size, having multiple models, because, the Mac, you have, at least with the MacBook, you have the MacBook Air with, 11-inch, 13-inch, MacBook Pro, you have 13-inch, 15-inch, 17-inch. So if, the operating system is supposed to be, one and all throughout, then it would kind of make sense to have an iPad with, a 10-inch display and then an iPad with, a 7-inch display. So that might make sense, but, that's kind of a stretch. I don't really know if that's going to happen now or ever, but at least those are rumors that there's going to be an iPad with a smaller display. But that's the news, and if you guys have been following my BlackBerry challenge, I talked about just a minute ago how I'm using the BlackBerry Torch on E810, switching from what I was using before, which was Android Windows phone, and now I'm using the BlackBerry Torch for 30 days. I just posted a video. I actually was just checking our YouTube channel to see if it posted correctly, but I don't think it did. But I'm going to have that up later on anyway. There it goes. So it's day 12, and so I give you guys kind of an update of where I'm at, how things are going. Sorry. And, it's gotten better, and we're going to get on to the open Q&A here in a couple of minutes, but I just kind of wanted to tell you guys, during the live show where I'm at. It's gotten a little better, I'm not as frustrated as I was the last time. I think the last update I did was like day 8, and if you remember, I was mad, I was upset, I was ready to quit, but I decided not to. I'm going to just keep on with it, stay the course. And so, once I decided to stay with it, I realized that I had to find a way to either like it or just learn the most about it to make sure that, the things that I don't like are really problems, that it's not just me, getting frustrated and throwing it away. So I started digging into it. I found, some new features, some new apps. I started appreciating certain things more. And I'm getting used to it. I'm settling into it. I'm like, you know what? This is okay. I could use this in every part of my life. So watch that video because I talk about that a little bit more. And then Aaron also has a video on his Galaxy Note challenge. So check that out. He's on day 14. At least the video that he posted, it was day 14. That might have been yesterday. Anyway, so that's the news. Thanks guys for watching. We're going to move on now to the open Q&A. And so if you have any questions about any devices, you guys can, if you're in the chat room, I'm there. If you're on Facebook, I am also there. And so just, ask me anything, and I'll try my best to answer it. There was some stuff that I missed that I was going to talk about, the Galaxy Note 10.1, LG Miracle, a couple of other devices. So if you want to ask me about that, then you can. I have news and stuff. But, hold on, let me get everything situated. Okay, Facebook. Is anybody on Facebook this week? No. That's surprising. Not really, though. Okay. So I'll just go back to you. If you're on Facebook, I'll be there. I'll check it every couple of minutes. But there wasn't anyone there when I checked just now. What is better, Galaxy Note or iPhone 4S? I want to buy it in Mexico City. Oh, you're asking Phone Dog 1. Can I answer that question? Galaxy Note or iPhone 4S, really very comparable. I mean, I think if you were to compare the specs, they would be, spot on in a lot of ways. Obviously, with the Galaxy Note, you have that larger display. You can watch Aaron's Galaxy Note challenge to kind of see how he likes it, using it, in everyday life. For me, having the larger display, not really as useful as I think other people would find it, but that's personal. If you think having the large display, if you do a lot of web browsing or watching videos, or, if you need it for taking notes, if you do that kind of thing, maybe if you're in school, it might be helpful for that. But, really that's all it has that's unique, over the iPhone 4S. Beyond that, it just goes to, do you want Android or do you want iOS? But so those two things I can't really answer for you. Do you need a larger display? Yes, then go with the Galaxy Note. Do you like Android or iOS? That's up to you, personal preference. But in terms of hardware specs, very equal in a lot of ways. So are you liking that BlackBerry today? Any new updates? Yeah, like I mentioned, you can check out the video and I give you guys my update. I kind of I don't want to say if I like it, but I'm getting used to it. I'm accepting it and I'm learning to live with it. Sydney, your preference, larger display or higher quality of display? I mean, larger display, it depends on what you mean. For me, perfect size display is 4 inches, maybe 4.3 inches, but really a 4-inch display is perfect. So I don't really need a large display anyway. I am a sucker for beautiful displays. Super AMOLED Plus display, HD display, I love those. That's a really big thing to me. So if I had to pick a large display or a high quality display, I mean, again, it depends on what you mean by large, because if you're talking about 3.7 inches as small, then definitely I would go with a larger display. But if it's like a 4-inch display, but Super AMOLED Plus, yeah, that would be perfect. Why did you choose a BlackBerry Torch? Reasonings. I actually talked about that in the last video, which was day 9. So you can watch that on Phone Dog. It's only like 6 minutes long, so just watch that. I don't want to take up the time here when I could like answer other questions. But yeah, you can check out my day 9 video, and I answered that. At least I think it was day 9. It might have been day 5. So just watch both of those videos. Um, would you personally have the S2's screen or the Resound screen? Probably the Galaxy S2. I've used the Resound, and yeah, it's got a nice display, but like I said, that Super AMOLED Plus, the colors, the saturation, it's awesome. Do you ever get tired of reading all of the comments on Aaron's video about how he's lost weight? Not really, no. What do you think the future of WebOS is? The future of WebOS, now being open sourced, anyone can use it. It's definitely brings, a somewhat bright future to the operating system, but we're still not sure. As far as we know, no one's volunteered to use it, so we'll have to see. There's someone outside yelling, kind of threw me off. It sounded like they were like right inside my apartment, but they're actually outside. Yeah, I'm not really sure. It's definitely looking better than it was. Definitely that. But still not really sure where it's going. Do you think Google is in part to blame for Android's update fragmentation across manufacturers? In a short space of time, we have had honeycomb, ice cream sandwich, and now jelly bean. Partially because, releasing updates, 2-3 times a year. Yeah, I mean, that definitely contributes to it. At the same time, it's hard for me to know how long does it actually take for Motorola to get the update on their phones and send it out, or for HTC to do that, or for Samsung to do that. To me, it doesn't seem like it should take 6 months. It seems like it should take, 3 months at most. So, while, maybe it would be nice if Google didn't release as many updates, and I definitely think that's a valid point. But the fact is that they do, and manufacturers, if you're going to make phones, then support them. Bottom line, I mean, if you're gonna sell a phone, then make sure you get the update in a timely manner. That's just part of making products. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's not Google's fault. If Motorola looks at the past history and says, you know what, Google releases their updates 3 times a year. I don't think we'll be able to keep up with that or keep our customers happy. Then don't make Android phones. I mean, I know that sounds like a big deal, but really, if you're gonna make products, then support them. Manufacturers are not going to give support when they want to sell their newest, best products. Basically, yeah. Do you think the LG Miracle is ugly like I do? The LG Miracle ugly. I have a picture of it. LG Miracle. No. I mean, I don't think it's ugly. I don't really like LG phones, but I mean, I don't think it's ugly. Why honeycomb was only available for tablets and not for phones? Just the way Google decided to do it. Ice cream sandwich though is basically like honeycomb except for phones and tablets. So, visually and a lot of the features, it's like just get ice cream sandwich and it's not that big of a deal. I don't know why Google decided to do it that way. Maybe someone else who knows more about the coding or what Google does would know the answer. But like I said, it's not that big of a deal because ice cream sandwich is basically the same thing. Sydney, any news on the Galaxy S3? I don't think any new stuff. Let me check. Galaxy S3. We may see it in May. That's a new rumor. Not at MWC. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. But really, other than that, nothing new. Sydney, why is the Nokia Lumia 800, 900 receiving so much attention? The specs are the same as the Focus S. How come it doesn't have that attention? How come well, For one thing, it's Nokia, and so automatically that's a big story because of their reputation, good or bad. They've got a reputation. Nokia, I mean, yeah, Samsung is great manufacturer and really dominates the smartphone market worldwide, but for a long time Nokia was a king, and so to see them fall off that throne is a big story. So now whenever they're coming back, it's equally as huge. Not only that, but I think because of the partnership between Microsoft and Nokia, I mean, yeah, Samsung, uses Windows Phone. Really, Firefox? Now you have to tell me about an update? Okay. Anyway, yeah, Samsung makes Windows Phone devices, but Nokia and Microsoft are partnered, and so when they make a phone, it's kind of a bigger deal. That's why. There's just the hardware. I mean, if you've seen that hardware, like, dude, it's hot. I mean, you gotta admit that. I mean, the 800 and the 900, it looks friggin' hot, okay? Focus S looks great. I have it, did a review on it. It's got great hardware, but 800 and 900 is just awesome. Okay, I missed like a ton of questions. Sydney, will there be... Dear Sydney, thank you. Will there be an Android tablet with a slide-out QWERTY keyboard? I can't see that happening. You got the Asus Transformer Prime and the Asus ePad slider. Those have like a kind of like... Yeah, I guess it slides out. It's underneath it, and then it kind of slides out and the screen tilts up. So you have that. But one that just kind of like slides out, I can't really see that happening. Sydney, would you consider Lumia 800 or 900 the Evo 4G for a Windows Phone? I guess so, and being sort of like the flagship or the one that brings a lot of attention to it. Yeah, I could see that. Hold on, let me see if I can... Dolphin. Yeah, why I use Firefox, I have Chrome, and I use it sometimes. It's a great browser. I have nothing against it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The only reason I use Firefox is just because I'm used to it. I have it set up the way I want it to be. I've got all my add-ons. I've got everything set, and I like the way it looks visually. And Chrome, it's just kind of like, it's a great browser, but I prefer to use Firefox. Chrome is without a doubt the best browser. Does that comment make me a fanboy? I don't think so. Which HTC phone is better, HTC Sensation XL with Beats Audio or HTC Resound with Beats Audio? The Sensation XL, I wonder if I still have the spec sheet for that. Otherwise, I'd have to look it up because I don't remember. I don't. Oh, you're going to make me look it up. Okay. Sensation XL versus HTC Resound. Tell me it's there. Tell me it's there. Yes. You know what? I would have to look up the specs, and there's so many other questions that I just can't. I'm sorry. Any news on Apple lawsuit about copyright infringement with the name iPad? No, as far as I know, I haven't read any news about that. Sydney, will there ever be a Chrome app for Android? Yes, actually, a beta was just released. I believe you can get it now, unless it's for developers only, but I believe that's available. Is ZTE going to update the ZTE Warp? Let me see if I have that in my notes. ZTE Warp. I'm not sure. We must not have gotten word about that yet. Do all BlackBerries have those buttons that you hate? Oh, you mean the silence button that only silences media? I'm not sure. I would assume so, but I'm not sure. Are you going to have another guest on Phone Dog Live soon? Yeah, I am. Oh, Chrome for Android is ice cream sandwich only. That's right. Okay, yeah, you're right, Taylor. So it's for ice cream sandwich only. So Galaxy Nexus or the tablets. Another guest. Yeah, I loved having guests on the show, and I do want to have more guests. It just got to where finding a guest and the scheduling and getting everything worked out, I didn't have the time that I had before. And so I do still think about it. I want to have a guest. I just have to find the time to get everything scheduled. Today I was thinking about doing another Ultimate Fanboy War. I don't know if you guys would like that, but I kind of liked it. I thought it was fun. And so I might ask Aaron if we could do that again if you want to. What do you think of Microsoft lowering the standards on Windows Phone like 3 megapixel? Yeah, actually, I think it was Taylor who wrote an article about that, about how, with Apollo and Tango, they're going to be, instead of like one update coming out and then the other one overlapping it and updating that, there'll be, updates that will be on the market at the same time. So you have Tango phones and Apollo phones, some of them high end and some of them mid range. What do I think about it? I think it's fine. As long as it doesn't lead to the kind of fragmentation that we see on Android, I think it's fine. And I don't think it will lead to that kind of fragmentation because, like Taylor brought out in the article, it's a deliberate thing. And because Microsoft has more control over their OS, I don't think it will lead to that at all. So just in terms of like having mid-range options and having high-end options, yeah, I think that's great. Different price ranges. I think it's a good idea. What color would you choose for your Lumia 900? White, cyan, or black? Well, it'd probably be between white and black. I'd probably go with black, but I'd like to see white. I'd like to hold it and, see what it looks like. Has there been a leak for the first Windows Phone 8 phone? Let me see. Windows Phone 8. Mango. No, doesn't look like it. Sydney, I have the Nexus 1. I want to upgrade to Windows Phone, but basically I'll be getting the same specs. Should I wait for Windows Phone 8? I don't know if we're entirely sure when Windows Phone 8 is going to be released. I think I should know that. I think we talked about that last week. Would I wait? You have the Nexus 1. Man, I'm surprised you haven't updated already. Well, you waited this long, so you might as well wait. Yeah, wait for Windows Phone 8. I want to be a part of the fanboy battle war. Yeah, if we do it, then I'll send out. I'll have a post on how you can enter, but we'll have to see. If you have another ultimate fanboy war, you should battle BlackBerry yourself. I don't think I could. Will Windows Phone ever get a dual-core processor? Yeah, Windows Phone 8 will have support for dual-core processors. What's your boyfriend's name? He's actually my husband. I'm married. His name is Martin. When will iPhone 5 will be launched worldwide? We don't have any solid dates, but we're hearing it's usually released in the summer. The iPhone 4S, as you know, was released in the fall. We're hearing that Apple will stick with the fall release date, but again, at this point it's too soon to tell. When is the Google and Motorola merger going to take place? That's already taken place. It's done. They are merged. Do you think ice cream sandwich works well with tablets? Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm trying to answer the questions. Do you think there will ever be a G-Tunes like iTunes? Well, you have Google Music, and now the Android App Store, the Android store sells music, so I think they pretty much got that. I think they're good. Did he go to Jared? He did, actually. Yeah, he did go to Jared. I actually picked out the ring because, well, I knew he was going to propose, and so I was like, I want to pick out the ring. So you can propose, but I want to pick it out. So we went to Jared. We went there because they really do have the best prices. I mean, I know the commercials say that, but it's actually true. They really do have the best prices. Okay, you live in Texas. Why no Southern accent? I don't know. I'm born and raised here, and I just don't have it. Does the Galaxy Nexus have a custom skin? No. Do you go to MWC or just Aaron? Right now it's just Aaron. I'm pretty sure I'm not going. Taylor might go, but I don't usually go. Google Music is way better than iTunes. Okay. G-Tunes is Google Music. No, the Galaxy Nexus doesn't. You live in Texas. Why so pale? Well, for one thing, I have two bright lights shining on me, so that's not doing wonders for my skin tone. And I'm using a webcam, so obviously the lighting and everything is going to be perfect. I am fair-skinned, not pale. Okay, I'm fair-skinned. I'm actually half Mexican, which you would not guess at all by looking at me. My mom was Mexican, my dad's white. So apparently the white blood is pretty strong because there's none of that in here. Um, but yeah, I guess when I do go in the sun, like when I decide to go tan, or during the summertime when I go swimming, I don't have to wear sunblock. I really ever don't get sunburned. And I can lay out for like probably 30 minutes and I'll be tanned like that. And I'll have a tan for the rest of the year. So that's one of the nice things about being half Mexican. But right now, I know I'm pretty fair skinned. It's 5:02. I just realized that. Let me answer another question since none of those really had to do with phones, at least the last one. Okay, so one more phone question. I didn't check Facebook at all. Oh my gosh, guys on Facebook, I'm so sorry. I don't think she can see us. Yeah, I just now checked it. I'm really sorry. Okay, do you think the current HTC handsets will get Sense 4.0 with their ice cream sandwich update? Possibly, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Galaxy Note best phone on Earth? I don't know. I mean, maybe depends on how you look at it. Kyocera Echo. Random comment. Okay, but anyway, thanks guys for coming. It was a great show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again on YouTube also, thank you for watching. I will be back next Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Same place, Ustream, also on our Facebook page. If you missed any of the show, that's right, I knew there was something else I wanted to say. If you missed any of the show, like I said, we posted on YouTube. It should be there tomorrow. I usually try to get up on Saturday. So if you missed any of it, you can watch the recording. Leave your comments there. I try to read those comments and respond to some of them if I can. But I'm glad you guys could be here. I had a great time, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.